Welcome to Performance Anxiety. Billy Gould joins us this week. You know him as the bassist from Faith No More, and we talk a bit about the history of the band and some of the other projects he's been involved in, like Shandi's Addiction and Brujeria. But he's also one of the creative forces behind the Talking Book. They've just released their second album, and Billy spent some time discussing how he and Jared Blum created the band and the music. It's a great album. It's cinematic and expansive. Pick it up at Koolarrow Records because vinyl is limited to 500 copies, so get a move on. And give us a follow at Performance ANX. Check out Billy Gould and Talking Book.
This is Billy Gould. I'm in Faith No More and also the Talking Book. We have a record coming out. It's going to be 12-inch vinyl, or you can get on the digital platforms. You're listening to Performance Anxiety.
All right, well, thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
All good.
So
I appreciate you wanting to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you've got a really wild career, and I'd love to find out a little bit more about it, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Sure.
And that's what this show's all about. It's just learning more about you, and we wind up talking about the new Talking Book album and finding a little bit more about that. I guess the first thing I always like to ask guests is to find out how you got started in music. I mean, were you playing bass as a kid? Did you start off with bass? How old were you? Things like that. How did it get started for you?
I started playing bass when I was about 12. And I went to a friend of mine who was in a Boy Scout troop with, go to his house and we'd just learn how to play together. Okay. But I ended up being in a band till I was about 18 with those guys, where we started a little independent label, put out a little release, just kind of learned how the business worked back then, cool. On a very small level.
Yeah.
And when I was 18, I moved up to San Francisco and I met the guys in Faith No More from there. So that's kind of how it went.
And now at the time, at the beginning, it was called Faith No Man, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so what?
Not my idea.
Well, I wanted to find out exactly what that means and how did that? Because
it doesn't mean anything.
No,
I don't know. I thought it felt to me like it was like trying to be a little bit willfully cryptic, open-ended, and it was.
Okay, yeah, apparently so. So when did it change to Faith No More?
Well, we had a personnel change. A couple people left, and Roddy came in, and because it wasn't Faith No Man anymore, Faith No More was the obvious place to go.
All right, well, that makes sense.
It was really that. There is no deeper meaning than that.
Okay. So, one of the things that I really liked about Faith No More is that the bass had its own voice in the band. It wasn't just a bridge between drums and guitar. Was that right? Kind of the plan from the beginning?
I would say not. I mean, I wasn't a very good bassist when we started, but we did go through a lot of guitar players. And so the bass, drums, and keys were the consistent thing for the first 2 years. And I think I got my voice because I was really one of the main instruments along with the keyboard. I mean, there were guitar players, but they all kind of brought in different things, and we were the consistent part of it. And I think actually for me, I benefited from that, definitely.
Oh, yeah. And now I heard an interview where you were talking about Mike Borden taking some kind of African drum class, and that kind of helped you turn into what it is. Well,
he was going, we both went to Berkeley School, and he was, we would go rehearse after school, and I think that there was a free class that was being taught by a Ghanaian drum master.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was going to it, just checking it out, and he was coming back. I'd see him go to rehearsal. He goes, man, I'm learning this crazy stuff. This is mind-blowing stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I went to a couple classes with them, and the way of it wasn't so much technique as the way of looking at music itself that was really eye-opening. And we kind of learned this very basic rudimentary principle and applied it to the music we were doing, and it opened up a lot of doors.
Okay. So, you said that the band went through a lot of lineup changes, but you Mike and Roddy were basically the core there.
Right. We've stayed consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. During those lineup changes, I read that you guys would do a lot of open mic shows to have people do vocal duties.
I mean, we were weird in the beginning. We were doing like every show was a different music. It was kind of more like performance. It was like we were doing some weird kind of aggressive ambient music that was like kind of trying to scare people a little bit, and also like keeping it like kind of chaotic, where really we burned a lot of incense and we kind of like tried to create this atmosphere of unpredictability. And the open mic thing worked with that, where we were kind of creating these hypnotic rhythms, and we were trying to get people who kind of had a certain charisma to them and had them talk over our rhythms. Oh. It was very, very different than the structured music you hear from us now.
Oh, so like you're saying, it was more like a performance art.
Yeah,
atmosphere.
It was more like a vibe. It was more like we were kind of creating these weird happenings. That was kind of what we were going for.
Is it true that Courtney Love and Paula Frazier had performed with you guys?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Courtney did a few shows. She played for about 6 months with us. And Paula Frazier, we only did one show, but we were really good friends. We hung out with Paula a lot back in the day. Okay. And so she was like, I mean, you know, she's like one of us. She's a part of the gang we hung out in.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you guys, Faith No More was active for years and years. I mean, was it 83 through 98? Was that about right?
Maybe more 82.
80, oh, wow.
Through 98. Yeah.
Wow.
And pretty much, pretty consistent, pretty nonstop.
Yeah.
Until 98.
Yeah.
Big, you know, yeah.
Now, at what point, I know you guys are toured constantly, and that's got to be hard on a band. I mean, is that part of what caused the initial breakup in 98, I guess it was?
You know, basic way I could distill what happened was we were just tired. Yeah. We were tired of each other, and we were tired of the work that it took. I think we were all kind of beaten down by, you know, it became kind of like a cart that we were pulling. And I don't think that our live performances ever really suffered. I don't think our music ever suffered on our releases, but it was just getting harder and harder to do. And, you know, they were always easy. It was never easy making music with us. We're very different people. So you really have to have the energy to want to do it. And I think that we just kind of didn't. After
being in a band for so long, was it hard not to be in Faith No More and pursue other interests?
Not at all. It was very. The hard part was for me. I became very aware of how much kind of I was protected by that band.
Oh, really?
I started a record label right away, and I realized that my association with Faith No More as a private person didn't mean shit. I didn't really think that it did, but I mean, we kind of came from the Van days, and we kind of came from from nowhere, but. So I didn't think it would be such a big deal, but it really was a big deal because people I knew immediately treated me differently. It was a very, very interesting process to go through and very educational in a good way.
Oh, well, that's good. No, and in those...
it was very positive, actually.
Oh, good. A lot of times people will say that, and it's like, oh, it was horrible. This is.
Well, you know, it's funny. What happens is when things go well for you in a band, one of the byproducts is things get done. Difficult things get done for you, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, you're always like, I wish I had a manager so we didn't have to make these cold calls to these clubs, or, you know, God, I wish we had a booking agent, you know, or blah, and then you get these things and they actually save you from a lot of like real rolling up your sleeves kind of work. And, it makes you think that things go pretty well where you don't have to be confrontational with people, and you communicate, you start to communicate passive aggressively because you don't really have to be aggressive, right? You get what you need done. And, you know, all of a sudden I kind of realized like I had to be confrontational with people again. I had to be direct with people, and I didn't like it at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, because you're responsible to yourself. And I remembered, oh yeah, right. Like, you know, if I needed to get it done, I need to get it done. It was a great experience.
in the latter Faith No More years, you were involved in some really interesting projects, and one of the ones that always stands out to me is one of my favorite tracks off that Kiss My Ass compilation, Shandy's Addiction.
Oh yeah.
How did that all come together? Because that's just a really wild bunch of guys there. I mean, it's you and Maynard James Keenan and Tom Morello. I mean, how did all that?
Well, I mean, this is really early days of Tool.
Yes.
Even really early days of Rage Against the Machine. Actually,
yeah.
We had the same managers, us and the Rage guys.
Okay.
So my manager called up and said, "Hey, they're doing Kiss wants to do this thing, and Faith No More didn't want to do it. Not all the guys are big Kiss fans in the band, but I was.
Yeah.
So they said, but the Rage guys, a couple of those guys want to do it. And I go, yeah, sure. Why not? So, and they go, yeah, my friend Maynard wants to sing. And they go, I don't know this Maynard guy. Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Right. Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. We only did one song. It was fun. It was really fun. We did our little arrangement thing in a day, recorded it. And then Maynard came up to San Francisco and we did vocals one day, went out, had a couple drinks and had some dinner, and it was a great experience. It was fantastic.
That's awesome, because that is my favorite track off that whole tribute album. That's the coolest.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
And you also did, was it a grindcore Brujeria? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes. Yeah, Brujeria. Yeah.
Yes. How did that happen? How did you come across and get involved with that project?
Those were guys I grew up with in LA. I went to high school with a few of these guys, and they were. This was their idea, actually. It was a great idea. Just back in East LA, back in the late 80s, this grindcore thing was really taking off. A lot of earache bands, a lot of bands like Carcass and Terrorizer. People in East LA were all over that. And we're like, man, they were like, we should do this. We should do this properly like Rasa. So I was the white dude in the band, but we did this kind of crazy experiment because it was, at the time, it was really pretty extreme. The music was extreme at the time, but the lyrics were really extreme at the time too.
Yeah.
And so that's, we kept masks on, and it was just a cool project.
Nuestro jefe fue asesinado. ¿Quién nos va a mandar? Pablo Escobar. Huele de coca. Hizo plata de hojas. Fue un gran hombre.
So that predated all of Mushroom Head and Slipknot and all those guys.
Oh, well, yeah. It was late 80s.
Yeah, so
we did a single. First, it was just kind of like some crazy experiment where we would just make a 45, and we only press 300 of them, Well, we don't lose too much money.
Yeah.
We recorded it for like $50 or something. And like 300 sold, boom, like that. And we're like, holy shit, this is like a real thing. So it was a few years, and it was fun. It was kind of like dirty money. So like we got some royalties for it. I would just go to Las Vegas with whatever royalties we got. And it was because it was kind of the devil's money.
Right.
And that's kind of how we all looked at it. That was the cool spirit of it. It wasn't really like a group that had all these kind of pressures that bands have. I mean, Faith No More was, it's been a really good creative outlet, but it was really always something that was, we did touring, and we made it like a business, and there's a lot of pressure and stuff that comes with that. And Brujeria was kind of a way just to be in a band that didn't have those kind of issues.
Oh, and it sounds like it was a lot of fun for you too.
It was great. I loved it.
Now, you mentioned, starting up your own label. How did you get started in production actually?
Well, production started with Faith No More because we always were paranoid against like producers and record companies. So we always tried to control as much of the artistic process as possible.
Okay.
Which means that mostly when we went in to record, even with Matt in the early days, he was like our brother, but he was a technical guy. We weren't very technical, but we did the arrangements ourselves. And that's a big part of production, is just arranging and orchestrating, writing arrangements and pre-production. So we already did it. So when I got into I wanted to learn about, a little more technical aspects of recording, I already knew a lot of the part about song arranging already. It was a very easy, natural transition, and it was fun. I mean, I still read gear sluts every day. I like it. It's fun.
And so you've got a really wild array of guys on the record label on Koolarrow.
Right.
And including one former podcast guest with Alexander Haka. So.
Right.
I love Alexander Haka. He's been on the show. Yeah, he was so nice. He's a really great guy to have on the show. So, are you looking for anything in particular? Is there any common thread between any of the people that you have on the label?
So I went into this really different than a lot of people who do labels, because a label is a business as well, and it survives off of selling product. That's what it is.
Right.
And I kind of went into it like a musician. I didn't have a band anymore, and I just wanted to keep making music. I didn't know if I was so happy about getting in another band, but I wanted to work with bands. So I saw this as kind of as a creative outlet. Not the smartest way to start, but that's how I did it, right? So my thing was, I toured so much. I heard so many amazing bands, especially in Europe, that nobody had any idea existed here, and they couldn't get released here. And I was like, this is ridiculous, because to tell you the truth, a lot of American music is really the same. It's very same-ish. It's about, it's a big market here, so it's a lot about moving big numbers and volume. And, Europeans, they have a different social system there. They have festivals that are sponsored by cities, so they can do interesting bills. They have grants, government grants to make records. So you're going to see a lot more eclectic, interesting motivations. And I kind of wanted to be a pipeline from something that had no chance of getting released here, but should be.
Okay.
And that's the way I looked at it. So there wasn't really a style I was looking for. I was more trying to be almost like a philanthropist, in a way, like I want to make this available here. And so, I think, there'd be hip hop bands, there'd be bands like Alex, there'd be all different kind of stuff. I knew when I hear it, if it talks to me and I hear it and I see that it needs a little help, I like to provide that.
Okay. And I did notice there's a specific group of Spanglish artists.
Right. Right.
Is that I haven't had a chance to listen to many of those. Is there anything specific about that? Because I honestly didn't even know that was a thing, like a genre, I guess. But you've got like 13 artists.
Yeah, this is the first thing we put out when we did Koolarrow, and a lot of it had to do with it was back in the Brujeria days, right?
Right,
It was like there was a big music scene in East LA, and actually there's a big music scene of kind of extreme stuff all through Latin America, and so I don't think anybody like Anglo people in the States had any idea about it. So that was our big, it's like, hey, check this out. It's not just all, timbales and maracas,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well,
in a weird way, what I did, it has a different meaning now, because back then there wasn't really an internet where you could hear music from all over the place. Right.
Right.
So everything was very stereotyped. If it's Latin, it has to sound like, Selena Gomez,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or mariachi band.
Just complete total bullshit. And, I don't like people telling me who I am, right?
Right.
I don't like being typecast, right? And poor guys over there, they weren't catching a break. So I figured, it was a nice way to open it up. Nowadays, it's a little easier to figure that out.
Yeah, the internet is.
That's what we did.
And like you said, it's a shame when a whole group of people get stereotyped into one type of music, and there's so many varieties of music, no matter where you go. So.
No, I was going to say, one thing that really struck me when the internet was starting to kind of get going, I was with this band Naive, which I put out. It was a Russian punk band, and I was in Moscow recording them. I was there for a couple of months, like in the 90s, and I think that we had somebody, I think it was Kurt Cobain, had died. It was around that. What year did he die?
I think it was 94.
Exactly that time. Okay, so that's when I was there. Okay, and they were Russians like taking collections like for benefits for him, for his family.
Oh wow!
And it was just funny because but it was also like made me realize like our culture here, everybody knows it everywhere. Like it was their culture there, and it's great. That's great. I mean, we export our culture very well, but it doesn't really come back the other way, and it should.
Now, how did you meet up with Jared Blum to start the Talking Book?
There's a place in where I live in San Francisco. It's a neighborhood called the Lower Haight. I've lived here for 30 years, and there's a sausage place. It's awesome. Every Tuesday, they have a thing called Hamburger Tuesday.
Okay.
Only make hamburgers. They're fucking great hamburgers. And usually there's a line of people on Hamburger Tuesday to get the hamburgers. And Jared was standing in front of me in line. So we were talking about food, and then he kind of recognized who I was, and we just got talking. And he's an experimental artist. He'd done a lot of releases under his label, and he came over to my studio, and we did a little tweaking and mixing and stuff. And I really liked what he did. Yeah. I kind of have a background where I listened to a lot of experimental music growing up, so it wasn't that. Even though people think of me like a rock guy, I'm not completely that.
Okay.
We just said one day, we were just like, man, we should just do something together and see what we would come up with. And so that was the first Talking Book we did in 2011.
Okay. Now, was there a theme behind it, an idea for it, or was it just you guys just working ideas out?
With this kind of music, the idea finds you. Like you feel this idea, but you don't know what it is. And the music is kind of this kind of discovery. And when you get there, you kind of see that thing that you were working for. So we kind of just said, what are we going to do? What can we find with both of us together?
Yeah.
And that's what we found.
Now, when you started, had you planned on this being more than just one album? Were there thoughts of that, or was it just we'll do this one project and then that'll be it? Yeah,
that's originally when we did it. We were like, just see what we would come up with, and then we started doing some gigs. A couple gigs, like Mike Patton had a show at Great American Music Hall, and he wanted an opener. It's like, well, let's just throw something together and do it, and that worked. And then we went to South America a couple times. We did a string of shows, and we picked up Dom, who's our third member, and we're like, this actually could be a thing.
Is it
kind of got our groove? Actually, I mean, with this, the more you do it together, the better you get to know each other. So.
Oh yeah.
You're right.
Is it difficult to play this kind of stuff live for you?
It is for me, not for them. Right. It's very easy for them because this is their world. For me, it's I don't like improvising in front of people. Like it's not my world. I mean, I do it much better now than I used to, but I didn't grow up that way. I always write songs and play the songs that we wrote, and I saw myself like a songwriter, and it's more linear. With this, I felt uncomfortable just standing out there and kind of, there's so much open-endedness about it. It didn't, and people, bought tickets to see it. Like, I feel like it's almost like I'm bullshitting my way through a test or something, right? An oral report. Yeah. But it was really good for me, actually, as a musician, to really get to learn about this and develop this language, because it was very important, and it's good that I did it. I like it much better now than I used to.
Oh, good. Now, did you play out live more with other bands before playing live with the Talking Book stuff, or were you staying more in the studio?
Ooh, well, Faith No More toured a lot, so... Oh,
that's right. Yeah, that's right, because it came out in... let's see, the first album came out in 11, right?
So that's 11 years after we were already playing again as Faith No More.
Okay.
But, no, I mean, I played in a lot of groups, but mostly, I would say those 10 years or 12 years between Faith No More, I did more as a producer than as a musician.
Okay. Now, there's what, 9 years between the first Talking Book album and the new one that's coming out.
Yep.
Were you working on it the entire time, or did you just kind of put it aside?
Yes, we were, but it was brutal. It was like we finished this tour where we had a lot of new material, or foundations of new material, and I just thought, well, we're kind of working together. We got this language. Let's just make a live recording in a way, and we can fix that. And we got our next album, and studio flooded. So that was a drag because the flood came in, and we had to get all of my gear out of there. And it took a couple months to get back together. I had to get some new gear. It was a real drag. And then, Jared had a son, so that takes a little visiting. And then I got in this motorcycle accident where I knocked my head pretty hard, and that took a little steam out. And then the studio flooded again. And so what we had, which we thought was something, was close to like, the big part of it was done. As time goes by, you have these waiting periods, and you start looking at it differently. Like, well, I could probably do this. This could probably be a little better. This isn't quite so interesting anymore. And so you go back and revisit it. And we did that over like 5 years. It got at the end. I'm like, I don't think this thing's ever going to get done. But it's not done till it's done. With this kind of music, if you don't feel it, it's not done. And you can't release something, you can't let it go until you're ready to let it go. So we thank God we fucking got there. Yeah. And actually, I have to credit Jared for that. I mean, there was some points where I was like, I don't know, man. And he's like, he kind of stuck with it. What about this? What about this? We're like, there you go. Crack that problem right there. It's really a lot of problem solving.
I can imagine, because I've heard the new album, and it's very layered. There's so many different sounds. Is it hard to construct it? Because it sounds like more of a construction process than a musical project.
Well, that's the challenge. I mean, it is a construction process, but how do you keep it musical? Yeah. Right. How do you know when it's still musical? So it's you have to have all these things, right? Yeah. And the way we do it, this is visual music for us. So we know we're in the right path when we start seeing things. When things start evoking images in our brains, we start seeing things, we know we're going the right way. And there's nothing worse than having really a bunch of cool stuff, but you're not seeing anything from it. It just feels dead, right? Yeah. And you're trying to find out what's the thing that's keeping it from getting life. And that's the process.
Is it hard to piece things together? Like, for example, you've got the song on the new album, Heritor. That's my favorite track off the entire album. I absolutely love that. It's cool. It's got so many layers, so many odd sounds, like bumps and squonks and all kinds of. Are those things planned? Is it more of a trial and error to put them in the right spot, making sure it's the right sound?
It's like working with clay. Right? Is it? You just keep molding it, and you try to build something, doesn't work, you break it down again and you mold it again, and it's this living weird thing. It's just all these elements kind of have to fit together. And you do one thing and it sets all the things off balance. And you're like, fuck, right? Yeah. Sometimes you can't go back there, right? So it's a tricky thing.
It's got to be a labor of love then, because if you're building it up,
it's not a labor of I mean, for the hours we put on this, we'd be getting paid about like 3 cents an hour. I mean, it's serious. It's just serious, a lot of work for very little payoff in that way. So it's a complete labor of love.
Yeah.
Now, that's it.
The album is really cool, and it sounds like it's almost 2 albums. It's coming out on vinyl? Was it
interesting that you say that? It's actually 2 pieces. Okay. And it's actually 2 sides of one album. So we did a limited edition vinyl. Okay, yeah. Where each piece is on each It's two pieces.
Okay.
It's actually, it's a side A and side B. And it's really, it's a whole story. It's a whole film, really.
It sounds very cinematic, very, very, it definitely sounds like side A sounds to me like it could be something, it's more organic, could be something like an epic Western almost. And where side B sounds a little more sci-fi to me.
I mean, it's kind of a coming of a plague.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's about when it comes. If you look at the titles, it's kind of like, it's like a plague or it's like an invasion, but it's like some kind of invasion. It's like a society that's invaded. And then part of the album is really the aftermath and what happens after that.
Okay.
So that's the story. It's a story of a civilization or society.
At the beginning of this of the track, "A Crumbling Mind Smiles," there is this really spooky audio clip. What is that?
My daddy was in the army. My daddy was in the army. I was in the Navy. My daddy my daddy
You know what? This is a weird one, but kind of cool. Recorded that while he was eating lunch with his kid. He was some guy who was in the restaurant and he was like raving. And it sounds pretty spooky because when you put things that we have, it completely colors it and it puts it in this like sinister feeling. But it was just basically just a guy talking shit in a restaurant.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. I mean, the title is
there's a lot of the sounds we use are not typical.
Yeah, I mean, and the title for that song is perfect. "A Crumbling Mind Smiles," because that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like somebody's losing their shit and it's gone. So now, what to you is the biggest difference between working on Talking Book 1 and Talking Book 2?
The difference. Talking Book 2, there was a little bit of I had a little more expectations of what I wanted from it that would make me feel good.
Yeah.
So it was a little more of a struggle. But I also think that this is a better record.
I love Talking Book 2. I've heard it more than Talking Book 1, but I really am enjoying it. I mean, tracks like Thermal Drift and Blood Aurora.
I don't know, in this country, like, if people are into this kind of music anymore, I'm glad you are. I'm happy that you have the patience to listen to this. I mean, I think it's rewarding if you do.
Yeah, I agree.
I was kind of under the impression, like, I don't know who this is going to connect to. I don't know, people living in Spotify random played generations, I don't know if they're going to connect with it. Well, you have to do it anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not a big fan of the whole Spotify thing. I like to sit down with an album and listen to it, absorb it, and learn it.
Right.
And having physical copies like the vinyl to me is important too. Because I was a photographer for years, and having that artwork is just as important as the music inside of it.
It's interesting, huh? It is. It's a whole system. It all matters. All of it.
Yeah, it's art. Music is art. The cover art is art, and it means a lot to me to see something that's so unique and so different come to life, because it's really amazing work.
I mean, I go into the things like, what am I missing in my life, right? What am I missing with music? Why do I want to make music? There's so much shit out there already.
Yeah.
So why would I want to add to this shit? And it's because what am I missing, right? Mm-hmm. And what I kind of miss now is evocative music that takes me someplace.
Yes.
I hear the Pro Tools, I hear the auto tuning, I hear the quantizing, I hear all of that shit. I hear people making music that's product and it's arranged and it's sometimes really well done, sometimes really well recorded, but it doesn't take me anywhere. Like when I grew up listening to music, where that magic that brought something inside of me that I connected to.
Yeah.
And so I want to do something that does that.
Talking Book 2 has done that for me too. I really got fascinated by the sounds and how the songs would build, how the layer after layer would creep in, and it's just a pleasure to listen to for me. I've really enjoyed it. Do you guys have plans once things calm down with the whole virus stuff going on to tour and play this live?
I mean, it would be pretty cool. We had Faith No More shows scheduled through the summer.
Yeah.
So that wasn't, even though we're releasing this record now, we didn't have any shows to go with it. Now that this thing is all in flux, we're trying to figure out what's going on. How's the next year going to look? I don't think anybody knows.
No, God, no. And what I've noticed is a lot of people doing live streams, bands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So, and I don't know if that's possible with Talking Book, but maybe you guys could do a live stream. That would be amazing.
We could actually. I think we could do that. Actually, that's a great idea.
See, now
I think we should.
Are you guys all local to close to? I mean, I know you and Jared are, but
we
it's
are. I mean, we're 5 miles away from each other. Yeah, so local.
Oh, see,
local enough.
That could be amazing. I would absolutely watch you guys for however long that show is because this music is fascinating.
It's a really good idea. I'm going to look into that. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's great. Now, where can people find the album?
You can get it on all of the iTunes and all that digital platforms. But basically, it's either that or it's going to be an album. It's going to be a 12-inch.
Okay.
You can get it on the website, Koolarrow. There's going to be a link for it, but Amazon will have it. Any online retailer should be able to have it. We're only making 500 of them. We just thought, for people who really want vinyl, let's keep it special. Let's just make 500 for the people who really want it. And then they have something that really means something. If we left it open and just made a lot of vinyl, I don't want this to be a special project. It took me 6 years,
Yeah.
It should be special for you too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Special for everyone who actually cares about this thing.
Right. Yeah. So it's limited. So they're not, get them while you can get them, and then they'll be gone. But that's okay. The people who have them, it'll mean something.
Yeah, exactly. And do you have any plans for after post Talking Book 2? Is there a Talking Book 3 in the works?
You ask me as I just finished 6 years of hell. I mean, I don't see why not. Sure. I don't see why not. I mean, I would like to be a little more prolific than every 11 years putting something out, for sure. There's a lot of things that I want to do, actually. There's a lot of music that I want to make still. And I'm a songwriter. I write all the time. So I want to stay productive. I want to stay creatively productive.
Do you have other projects that you're working on besides Talking Book at this point?
I'm doing some production stuff right now, some mixing projects, and I'm always writing. So there's some stuff, but nothing worth talking about yet.
Well, look, man, we've wrapped up a little early, but I've learned everything that I've been curious to know about. So I want to thank you so much for your time.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that you wanted to feature this, and I'm really glad you like it. Like I said, this music isn't for everybody, and I appreciate it when the person connects. Well,
it's fantastic. I absolutely love it, and I'm actually going to play it for my kids here pretty soon. Let them absorb it because they're into longer pieces. They're all in band at school, and so they appreciate music that's composed and built and not just jammed.
How old are they?
I've got 15, 16, and 17.
Excellent. Great years.
Yes.
Great years. So they're probably really good at the computer. They probably
oh yeah.
They're going to take the stuff that they're hearing and they're going to take it to the next level for sure.
Here's hoping. They all play a little bit of guitar, but my oldest plays the trumpet. My oldest daughter plays the trumpet. My son, who's in the middle, he plays the tuba / sousaphone, and my youngest daughter plays French horn.
Awesome.
So
fantastic.
Yes, we got a whole brass section. My house is a cacophony all the time.
Amazing. You got to record that stuff and send me the files so I can put it in the next Talking Book.
Oh, definitely. Man, thank you so much for your time tonight. Right. I really appreciate it.